Hey guys, Colin back with another video for my records and books and things. How are we all doing out there? It's been a while since I've talked with you, at least since last week on video wise. I'm a little late this week just because of being busy here and there. I usually do these on Wednesdays, so I'm a couple days late, but I should start getting some more videos in here in the next couple weeks because I'm off the entire month of July from work. I thought I was going to be off all summer, but it turns out I had to work the month of June for summer school. So, but now I have 6 weeks off. Tomorrow's my last day. Yay! I don't know what I'm going to do. I got some storage cleaning and things like that I still need to do. Um, but I'm here to show some more records and tapes. Oh, not tapes. Records and books, magazines. Oh, check this out. For any of you who might know what that is, that's my new logo for Old Man Funko. And that's Jack Krabs on there. If you want to know about that, you can send me a message or something. I do have a contest going on that channel for anyone over here who's interested in that. But anyway, let's get to the records. First off, I have Johnny Cash and June Carter. They're carrying on with them. We're carrying on with them. I don't have this record, and I seen it, and I thought, well, I'm going to pick that one up right now. It's got Jackson, Long-Legged Guitar Picking Man. All these songs feature him and June Carter singing together. And luckily, I've probably told this story before. Over the years, I was lucky enough to see him twice in concert. Once my mom took me to, when I was in grade school, I believe, to Topeka, to a dirt racing track they used to have there, where he played with the Glenn Campbell and Tanya Tucker. And then later on, just a few years before he passed away, he played here, or they played here in my town. And it was a good show. They sang again together, and she actually had a few solo songs in there as well. And it was maybe a couple of years later where they diagnosed him with the Parkinson's disease that he eventually succumbed to, and that's a rather sad story towards the end of their life, but I've always enjoyed his music, and that's always here for all of us to live. Johnny Cash, June Carter. And here's another one. Oh, wait. I didn't even get the other one. I got two Johnny Cash records, but I forgot to get that one down from up on the shelf, and I'll show that next time. Anyway, we're going to go through some Nielsen records. Here's Nielsen Sings Newman. I discovered this guy while watching Midnight Cowboy, the movie called Midnight Cowboy with is it John Voight, and I had to look it up. I said, who's singing the theme song in Midnight Cowboy where they're on the bus at the end, and the theme song comes on couple of times through the movie. I can't remember which, where, when, but I found out it was Nielsen, and so I started listening to some of his other music, and I really liked it. And so I started buying his records, and here's another one, Nielsen Sings Newman. Here we have Nielsen's Greatest Hits. Now, he has a lot of good songs on his records, but this one's just if I just want to throw something on with some of his great tunes. And here's some of them on his greatest hits. Everybody's Talking. That's the theme song to the Midnight Cowboy. Without Her, one. I guess the Lord must be in New York City. Me and my arrow. Coconut. Without you. Jump into the fire, which everybody might remember from Goodfellas, where he's seeing the main one of the mafia guys seeing black helicopters up in the sky, and he's all coked out on cocaine and all kinds of crap, and he's trying to cook his crippled cousin or brother. Somebody's trying to cook spaghetti sauce at home, but he's out running around picking up guns and sniffing coke with his one of his whores. That kind of stuff. And anyway, Without You, Jump into the Spaceman. That's one of my favorites. Remember Christmas. I don't quite know if I know that one. As Time Goes By and Daybreak. Those are all good tunes. So if you don't know any Nielsen, I would look for this one because it has his greatest hits on it. It's probably in an album. It's probably on a CD somewhere, or your MP3s. Although vinyl is much better to listen to. Nielsen. And here's another one, which I think I might already have this, but I couldn't remember, so I picked up another one. And here's Nielsen. Here we have The Searchers, Needles and Pins, y'all. Meet the Searchers. And here we have one that I don't have, and I picked it up. David Bowie, Space Odyssey. It's got some ring wear and stuff, but the vinyl plays perfect almost, except on one song it skips. It skips on one song. That's the only thing wrong with this record. David Bowie. And lastly, for the records, we have a German copy of Tom Waits' The Heart of Saturday Night. And that's a German copy, and it says something in German up there at the top. It says, Tractor Schlossmann. I don't know if that's what it looks like. It sounds like the German copy. Anyway, all right. Now to get into the books, I'm just going to go over these really quickly because I have a special book I want to show at the end, and it's going to take me a while to read parts of that. And I do collect vintage comics, mostly horror. But I want to start collecting these Sergeant Rocks from the classic Sergeant Rocks, because I used to read these when I was a kid, and I actually got myself into the comments in one of these, and I can't remember which one it is, but I wrote into the comic and said, hey, I like your Native American character that you have in your comic book, and they put me in the back of actually I think it was in the front of the comic where they have the, I don't remember, front or back. Anyway, I'm in the comics in Sergeant Rock somewhere. One of the issues, maybe one of these days I will find it. Sergeant Rock, get up and fight, you dummies. I never heard of this one, the Fightin' Five. These were all $2, so I decided to get them. Here we have Marvel Premiere Weird World. And I'm just kind of experimenting, seeing what this is. I didn't open up and look at it or anything. And if you hear some scratching back there, Morty's pooping in his litter box at the moment. Weird World Marvel Premiere. And here's one that I just thought it looked interesting. I don't know how many of these they made, but the Shadow, $2 for mature readers. He's back, and God help the guilty. The Shadow. And here we have some mid-1950s coloring books. The Lone Ranger, and another Lone Ranger. And I don't know how much they charged for these back then or what, but these were $2. And they came out in the mid 1950s. And this one's colored. Some of the pages are falling out there. There's a Lone Ranger. Let's see if we can find one with Tonto. I should have looked ahead of time. Nope, this one's just full of the Lone Ranger himself. Let's try the other one. The other one's uncolored. Nobody colored this one. Get that. Oh, there we go. There's the Lone Ranger and Tonto. And there he is going, "Hi-yo, Silver!" Whee! But that was always one of my favorite shows when I was a kid. You know, we watched all the reruns that would come on. Obviously, they came on a long time ago. And I do have some of the shows on reel-to-reel and other albums. And those are very fun to listen to. Because I listen to the voices that they have on there. They're instead of acting, sometimes they're just using their voices to create the characters and things on those old radio shows. And that's how I kind of started making up some of my characters, like old Jack Krabs here from my other channel, which some of you may know, a few of you. And next we just have two old 1970 Rolling Stones. This one has Paul McCartney on it. These are interesting to look at because it shows some of the records that were considered new releases back then and the advertising and stuff. And this one is Man of the Year, A Private Talk with John Lennon, 1970. You can see that's kind of, the edges are kind of ratty because these are basically made from newspaper material, and I doubt back then that they were thinking that these would be collector's items someday. You know, people would throw them away, use them as toilet paper or whatever, you know. That's what we did. One of the things we did when I was a kid, sometimes we didn't have any money, so we would use the newspapers and stuff that were around the house. You know, I grew up poor, on welfare. When I was going to middle schools, when I got my first job after school, cleaning the classrooms, I would sweep the floors and clean the chalkboards. And I think I got like $60 every 2 weeks, and that was a lot of money to me for a middle school kid. And I had to go to buy my own shoes and clothes and that sort of thing. And that's that story. But lastly, I'm very excited. I found this is a first edition of Jack Kerouac's Big Sur. This is only my first edition of a Jack Kerouac book. And the other one is called Visions of Cody. And that's a first edition, but it actually came out after his death from notes or something that he had laying around. But this one came out in his lifetime, I hope. And this is the first edition of Jack Kerouac's Big Sur. For those of you who don't know who Jack Kerouac is, he was a beatnik writer back in the 50s and 60s, along with several other beatnik writers. They all hung out, Allen Ginsberg and others. And they all just basically partied and wrote stuff about their partying, which is kind of what all these books are about. They're all pretty much autobiographical about him and his friends and their exploits. But in each book, he writes himself in the beginning of this, he had to change the names in each book, even though they were all about him and his friends. After a short happy time there, writing down the sounds of the Pacific, watching birds, feeding Alf the mule, he is overcome by a mood of horror, helplessness, and despair, and flees to San Francisco. Parties and people, beats, Buddha, booze, and sex. Then Cody, his old buddy, introduces him to Billy. She's got those mad blue eyes, arched eyebrows, and intelligent face. And he lives with her and her little boy, Elliot. Yet DeLue feels stranger and stranger, encountering death everywhere. A dead otter floating in the sea, a dead mouse in the grass, a dead goldfish in Billy's fish bowl. More parties, more people, more jazz. That's part of the intro on the sleeve here. And basically, Deleuze is Jack Kerouac. He changed the name to Jack Deleuze in this book. And other books released by him are On the Road, The Subterraneans, The Dharma Bums, Dr. Sachs, Maggie Cassidy, Tristessa, Visions of Cody, Lonesome Traveler, Book of Dreams, Desolation Angels, Visions of Dira, and Big Sur. And a little bit more here, people. Hang on. My work comprises one vast book, like Proust's, except that my remembrances are written on the run instead of afterwards in a sick bed. Because of the objections of my early publishers, I was not allowed to use the same persona names in each work. On the Road, The Subterraneans, The Dharma Bums, Dr. Sachs, Maggie Cassidy, Tristessa, Desolation Angels, Visions of Cody, and the others, including this Big Sur, are just chapters in the whole work, which I call the Deleuze Legend. In my old age, I intend to collect all my work and reinsert my pantheon of uniform names, leave the long shelf full of books there, and die happy. The whole thing forms one enormous comedy, seen through the eyes of poor T. Jean, me, otherwise known as Jack Deleuze, the world of raging action and folly, and also of gentle sweetness seen through the keyhole of his eye. Jack Kerouac, and you can see the first printing, 1962, on the side there. Obviously, well, you probably don't know, he never got to reinsert the real names into his books because they all remain as they were, that I know of, unless he has some collection that we don't know about somewhere, and he put the correct names where they shouldn't be, or should be. But it's kind of interesting just that he never got to do that, because I don't know, it's just interesting to me. And that was Big Sur. And there's actually a movie on Netflix, or it's not on Netflix anymore. I think you can watch it on YouTube. It's called Big Sur. And it's a pretty good little movie surrounding this book, Big Sur in California. And that's it. Colin, over and out, and Weirdos Unite.